Welcome back to day 2 of our 7-day English Fluency Challenge. If you joined us yesterday, your mouth is already starting to build muscle memory. Today, we are going to make you sound even more natural.
I am so ready for day 2. Yesterday was amazing, and practicing those daily routines really helped. Today, we are focusing on sentences you need for going outside, traveling, and exploring the city.
That's right. For anyone new joining us today, shadowing is very simple. You listen to the English sentence and then you repeat it out loud immediately. Don't think about grammar, just copy the sounds like a shadow follows a person.
It is the absolute best way to stop translating words in your head. You just listen, repeat, and speak. We will guide you through these new sentences today, step by step.
You know, David, while looking at today's travel sentences, I remembered a secret about native speakers. I call it the lazy mouth technique. It sounds funny, but it is the real reason native speakers speak so quickly and smoothly. I will share exactly how to do it a little later in this podcast.
The lazy mouth technique? That sounds perfect for me. I always try too hard to pronounce every single letter. I cannot wait to learn that trick.
It will change everything for you. But first, let's get our bags packed and start our journey. Are you ready for the first set of everyday travel sentences? Listen closely and remember to repeat exactly after us.
We are ready! The very first step of any trip is usually leaving your house and getting a ride. Let's practice a very important sentence. I need a taxi to the airport. Listen and repeat. I need a taxi to the airport.
Great start. Now, imagine you are in that taxi and you finally see the airplanes. A lot of my students make a small mistake here when they talk about reaching their destination. They say, I arrived to the airport.
Oh, I definitely used to say that. Because we say go to, my brain thought we should also say arrive to.
Exactly. It is a very logical guess. But in English, the verb arrive is special. We use at for specific locations and buildings. So we arrive at the airport or we arrive at the hotel. But if it is a whole city or country, we use in, like arrive in London. Let's practice the building rule together. I arrive at the airport.
That is so much better. So now we are inside the airport. It is huge, and we need to find where to go. A very useful question to ask the staff is, where is my gate? Let's shadow this one. Where is my gate?
Perfect. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. You fly, you land, and you are in a brand new city. The first thing you usually want to do is drop off your heavy bags. So you need to find your hotel.
Yes, and sometimes the map on your phone doesn't work or you lose your internet connection. So you have to ask a person on the street. The best way to ask is, how do I get to the hotel? Let's practice that. How do I get to the hotel?
Excellent pronunciation. Did you notice how David asked that question? He didn't just say, where is hotel? Adding the phrase, how do I get to, makes you sound much more polite and natural to native speakers. Let's try it one more time. How do I get to the hotel?
And after you ask that question, you follow the directions, and finally, you see the hotel. Walking inside, you go straight to the reception desk.
Yes, and the very first thing you want to tell the receptionist is that you already booked a room. The sentence is, I have a reservation. Let's practice that. I have a reservation.
Emma, I used to make a very funny mistake here. I would walk up to a hotel desk and say, I have an appointment? The receptionists always looked so confused.
I can completely understand why, David. Both words mean you arranged something in advance, but in English, we use appointment when we meet a person, like a doctor, a dentist, or a business manager. We use reservation for a place or a service, like a hotel room, a table at a restaurant, or a flight.
That rule makes it so clear. So, for the hotel, we must say, I have a reservation. Let's ask our listeners to shadow this one more time. I have a reservation.
Excellent. Then the receptionist will ask for your identification. You will probably hear, "Can I see your passport, please?"
And you can reply with a very polite and simple sentence. Here is my passport. Let's shadow this together. Listen and repeat. Here is my passport.
Perfect. Now, after they give you the room key, you might want to know about the food. A very important question to ask is, what time is breakfast?
Oh, hotel breakfast is always the best part of the trip. Let's shadow this delicious question. What time is breakfast?
And once you know the breakfast time, your hotel check-in is complete and you are finally ready to explore the city.
Yes, a good breakfast gives you energy for a long day of walking. When I step outside the hotel, I usually look for public transportation. A very important question is, where is the nearest subway station?
That is a perfect sentence for travelers. Let's ask our listeners to shadow it. Listen closely. Where is the nearest subway station?
You know, Emma, I used to make a small grammatical mistake with that question. I always asked, where is the near station? I didn't know I needed to add the EST at the end of the word.
That is a very common omission, David. When we say near, we are just talking about general distance. It could be any station. But when we add EST to make it nearest, we are asking for the number one closest station to where we are standing right now.
That makes perfect sense. So always ask for the nearest. After you find the station, you need to pay for your ride. The best sentence to use is, I would like to buy a ticket. Let's practice that. I would like to buy a ticket.
Great job. Now, sometimes the ticket machines are confusing, or there are too many maps and you don't know which train to take. You can politely ask a worker, which train goes to the city center?
That is a lifesaver phrase when you're lost. Let's shadow it together. Which train goes to the city center?
Following those train directions, you finally step out and you are right in the city center. It is usually very busy, beautiful, and exciting.
Yes, and after all that walking and traveling, I am usually very hungry again. So the next step is looking for a place to eat. A simple, useful sentence is, I am looking for a restaurant.
That is a phrase you will use on every trip. Let's practice that together. Listen and repeat. I am looking for a restaurant.
You know, Emma, speaking of restaurants and food, this is actually a perfect time to ask our listeners a quick question before we order our meal.
Oh, absolutely. We want to hear from you right now. What is your favorite type of food to eat when you travel? Do you love trying new local dishes or do you prefer something familiar? Pause the video and write your answer in the comments.
I always love reading what you guys write. Now, let's imagine you find a great restaurant. You sit down and the waiter comes to your table.
Here is where a lot of my students make a small mistake. When they are ready to order, they often say, "I want the chicken," or "I want a coffee."
Yes, I definitely did that. In my native language, saying I want is perfectly fine. But in English, it can sound a little bit rude or demanding to a waiter online.
Exactly, David. It is a direct translation mistake. A much better, polite, and native sounding phrase is "I would like." So instead of "I want," you should say, "I would like the chicken, please."
It sounds so much softer and friendlier. Let's ask our listeners to shadow this polite request together. I would like the chicken, please.
Beautiful. And if you don't know what they have, you need to ask for the list of food. You can say, "Could you bring the menu, please?"
Let's practice that one too. Remember to sound polite. Could you bring the menu, please?
That was perfect. Now that you have the menu in your hands, you look at it and finally decide what to eat. When the waiter returns, they will usually ask, "Are you ready to order?"
And my answer is always yes. To order your food, you can use the polite phrase we just learned. For example, I would like the steak. Let's shadow that together. I would like the steak.
Excellent. Now, after you finish your main meal, you might want something sweet. But be careful here. Many learners make a very funny pronunciation mistake. They say to the waiter, "I would like a dessert."
A desert? With hot sand and camels? I think that would be very dry and not very tasty.
Exactly, David. The words look very similar, but they sound completely different. The hot, dry place with sand is a desert. You put the stress on the first part. But the sweet food you eat after a meal is dessert. You put the stress on the second part.
That is such an important tip. We definitely want the sweet food, not the sand. Let's ask our listeners to shadow the correct sentence. Pay attention to the stress. I would like some dessert, please.
Beautiful pronunciation. And finally, when your stomach is full and you are ready to leave, you need to pay for your food. The most natural way to ask is, "Can I have the bill, please?"
A quick note for our listeners. In the United States, you might also hear people say check instead of bill. Both are perfectly fine and everyone will understand you. Let's practice with bill today. Listen and repeat. Can I have the bill, please?
Great job. Now you know exactly how to order a delicious meal and pay for it in English without any stress. And with a full stomach and the bill paid, you have plenty of energy to continue exploring the city.
Yes! My favorite thing to do after eating is to visit the local shops and buy souvenirs for my family. When you find something you like, you need to know the price. A great sentence is, how much does this cost?
That is a perfect and polite sentence. Let's ask our listeners to shadow this question. Listen and repeat. How much does this cost?
You know, Emma, when the shop assistant answers, you have to listen very carefully to the numbers. I used to make a huge mistake here. I always confused numbers like 15 and 50.
That is a classic English mistake, David. And it can be a very expensive mistake if you give the cashier the wrong amount of money.
That's right. I once paid $50 for a small keychain because I didn't hear the difference.
The secret to these numbers is the rhythm. For the teen numbers, like 15, the stress is strong on the second part and the N sound is long. But for 50, the stress is on the first part and the end is very short. Let's practice the smaller number first. It is $15.
Excellent. Now let's practice the bigger number. Notice how short the end is. It is $50.
Great job! Now you won't make any expensive mistakes. After shopping, you might need to wash your hands before you continue walking. The most polite way to ask in America is, "Where is the restroom?"
This is an extremely important sentence to know. Let's shadow it together. Where is the restroom?
It really is. Knowing how to ask for the restroom makes traveling so much less stressful.
Absolutely. And after a quick stop, you feel refreshed and ready to go sightseeing. You finally see the famous buildings and beautiful streets.
Yes! And when you see those amazing places, you definitely want to remember them. So you pull out your phone or camera.
I take a lot of photos when I travel. But sometimes a selfie is not enough. I want a picture showing my whole body and the building behind me.
In that case, you have to ask a stranger on the street for help. A very polite and common sentence is, "Could you take a picture of me, please?"
Let's shadow this one. It is a bit long, so listen carefully to the rhythm. Could you take a picture of me, please?
Great job! Now, I have noticed many learners use the wrong action word here. Have you ever heard someone say, "Can you make a picture of me?"
Oh, I am guilty of that. In many languages, we say make a photo. I used to ask people to make a picture for me all the time.
It is a very natural direct translation, but in English, we always use the word take with photos or pictures. You take a photo, you take a picture, and you take a selfie.
That is a great rule to remember. Always take. Let's practice that polite question one more time the correct way. Could you take a picture of me, please?
Excellent. And when they give your phone back, you smile and simply say, "Thank you so much."
After a full day of walking, eating, shopping, and taking photos, the sun finally goes down. My legs are usually very tired by this point.
Traveling is exhausting. So it is finally time to return to your bed and rest. You can use a sentence very similar to what we learned this morning. I am going back to the hotel.
Let's shadow this final travel sentence for the day. I am going back to the hotel.
And that is a full, amazing day of travel. But, David, before we completely relax, do you remember what I promised our listeners at the very beginning of the episode?
Oh, yes, the lazy mouth technique. I have been waiting for this. You said it is the secret to sounding like a fast native speaker.
Yes, I did. When beginners speak, they usually try to pronounce every single letter perfectly, and they take a small breath between every word. But native speakers have lazy mouths. We don't like to work that hard. We connect our words together so they flow smoothly like water.
Flow like water? Can you give us an example from today's lesson?
Of course, think about the very first sentence we practiced. I need a taxi. A beginner often says, "I need a taxi." But a native speaker connects the D in need directly to the A. It sounds like one word, "Nita." Listen, I need a taxi.
Wow, I need a taxi. It actually feels much faster, and my mouth is much more relaxed.
Exactly. We call this connected speech. So when you practice your shadowing today, don't be a robot. Let your mouth be a little lazy and let the words touch each other. Let's ask our listeners to practice this relaxed linking right now. I need a taxi.
That is such a powerful trick, Emma. I am definitely going to be more lazy when I speak now.
I am glad you like it. Now, before we finish day 2, it is time for our quick mini quiz to test your memory.
Oh, it is my favorite part. Let's see who was paying attention. Earlier, we talked about asking a stranger for a photo on the street. What is the correct action word? Do we ask someone to make a picture, or do we ask them to take a picture?
Think about the rule we discussed. Take a guess and say your answer out loud right now.
Time is up. If you said take a picture, you are absolutely right. Remember, we always take photos and selfies in English.
Excellent job, everyone. If you remembered that rule, it means you are paying great attention today.
We learned so many useful travel sentences in this episode, from finding the hotel to ordering delicious food and buying souvenirs. If you shadowed us today, you are one step closer to speaking naturally.
You really are. And please, don't forget to use the lazy mouth technique when you practice these sentences again. Relax your mouth and let the words flow together like water.
Yes, it makes a huge difference. Now, before we say goodbye for day 2, we have one final question for you.
Since we talked all about exploring new cities today, we want to know, what is your dream country or city to visit in the future?
Go to the comments and tell us your dream destination in English right now. I will be reading your answers and replying to as many as I can.
We cannot wait to read them. Have a wonderful and relaxed day, and we will see you tomorrow for day 3 of our 7-day fluency challenge.
Bye, everyone. Keep practicing and stay lazy with your speaking.